So like most photographers and videographers, I have a lot of different lighting gear, especially when it comes to like diffusion and ways to augment light. You know, I've got like bounce panels, I've got layers of diffusion, I've got umbrellas, I've got softboxes, I've got lanterns, so much different stuff. And I started to think like, hey, do I really need all this? Like, is this really important? I mean, I don't really do that much complicated lighting setups very often, and maybe I just need to get rid of some of it. But like most people, I started to think about, well, what about that one time when I'm gonna need it? What about when I'm on set and I have like a commercial shoot and I know all of a sudden, oh, I really wish that I kept this bounce, or I really wish that I had that massive umbrella or whatever. So it's hard to get rid of. And most of it isn't all that expensive either. So what I wanna do is take you through the pieces that I own and how I use them, and ways that I think they could be helpful for you if you're thinking about what type of lighting gear is really essential and what's effective and what you should do. So we're not gonna be talking about the lights so much as we're gonna be talking about lighting modifiers today. So zooming out a little bit, we'll dirty the frame here and we'll look at our setup, our first setup that we used for that first shot. What we're doing here is kind of a book lighting technique. So we have the Zhiyun Molis, it's the 60 watt RGB cob fill light that they have. That's bouncing off of a white bounce, and then it's going through 2 layers of diffusion. So that's giving that really soft kind of wrapping light. And we're motivating that by this guy here. Now this could be a little brighter probably, but the issue that I have is that I actually don't have a small little light that I can throw in here at a high enough value that it will kick enough light on the side. But generally speaking, something like that is gonna help, and in post we can embellish that a little bit. Next, I have this guy here, and this is just a black panel, and that's just sucking up some of that light on the side. And it is just crammed into the couch. And honestly, I know that it looks kind of janky, but the amount of times that I've been working on a set when I've been gripping and I have seen like people just doing stuff like this, it's quite a bit. And there's even a term for it when you're just like holding it, it's called Hollywooding it. So somebody will say like, take this bounce and just Hollywood it. And that basically means grab the bounce, put it to the side, and push that light onto the people rather than setting it up on a light stand or something like this. Now, if we wanted to control this even a little more, we might actually throw some black muslin over top so that we're not getting any of that bounce light coming up around here. But in order to help to facilitate that, what I actually did was throw on a cap, which I know I wear a cap in every single video anyways, but the cap is here basically to help from some of that light washing down over the face to create a little more structure. And the other thing is that we're trying to keep the scene kind of darker while still being soft light. I don't want it to be super, super bright when it's up close. And so in order to do that, I wanted to use some complementary colors. So going with orange and blue to help kind of add the richness to the scene is helpful. So when you're thinking about how to use your modifiers, also think about how you want to use the wardrobe, use the placement, use everything. And we're just, I mean, sitting in my living room right now, but pretty quickly we can get to an interesting looking scene just by using a basic bounce, a light, and some diffusion. And then this black panel here is, to be honest, not doing a ton, but it is helping soak up a little bit of light on this side. Moody Chris here cutting in. This is gonna be a setup later in the video, but I just wanted to ask you something real quick. Do me a favor, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Most people watching aren't, and I get that. Subscribing takes a second, so why would you do it? I'm just kidding, I'm being an asshole. The point is that if you do subscribe and I get more subscribers, it helps me out, it helps me to work with brands and to do more interesting stuff and not have to be stuck in my bedroom or my living room or wherever I am all the time. So hit the subscribe button, let's get back. Okay, so we're gonna go over some quick C-stand best practices here. So right now I just have a layer of diffusion on here and that's it. So there's not really any weight other than the weight of this arm that is on the C-stand. Because of that, I'm not too worried about having a sandbag on here. I should be. If anyone else was on set or if this was a real production, I would always have a sandbag on here. And if you can't have a sandbag, you're gonna wanna have somebody putting their foot on it until you can get a sandbag on it just to keep it safe. Regardless, even though there's nobody here and I'm not worried about this falling in any way, I do have the arm extended over the tallest, highest, biggest leg of my C-stand, and it's going directly over it so that if there is any added weight on here, if I were to press down on this, it's not gonna topple over because the weight is being pushed directly onto that largest leg. So make sure that you're always positioning things so that the weight is going onto the leg. A couple other little C-stand safety tips is, now this one is an air cushion one, which is nice. So it means that if I drop it, it has a little bounce to it. It doesn't actually collapse 100% of the way. That's helpful because it's easier to make sure that you're not getting your fingers pinched, but watch out for pinched fingers with these bad boys. It can happen and it's gnarly. And the other thing, and this is really important for safety when it comes to like loading weight and stuff like that. Now I've set this up the wrong way purposely as a demonstration, but right now, if I loosen this up here, you can see that I can move this freely, right? Up and down. However, the way that this is positioned right now, as this goes down, if this were to catch, it would loosen more and more, meaning that our top part here, the lollipop, is going to loosen and get less stable, and eventually this whole thing could slide out. We don't want that. What we actually want to do is make sure that this is in a position where if the loaded part, the weight, was to dip down, it would actually be tightening this. So we actually want this the other way. So I'll show you what that looks like. So we've moved things around here. We actually spun this around so that the knuckle here is going to tighten going this way. So if I were to loosen this off a little bit, if this was to head down, this would actually tighten with it if it was a heavy enough load. And that would give us like a little bit of extra reassurance that we're not going to lose whatever's on top of here. That's your C-stand lesson for today. All right, so for this next one, we are using what is probably like my most specialized piece of lighting modification that I have. And it's this big globe softbox lantern-y kind of thing. It's pretty cool, but it is very specific. So like, basically I have it right above me right now and it is shining down. Almost imagine like I'm underneath a chandelier or something like that. The problem with using this usually is that it does tend to put a lot of like darkness under the eyes and under the chin and cheek and stuff like that, but it doesn't necessarily like suck in a lot on the sides. So I don't find that it's always the most pleasing look, but there's a way to kind of help with that a little bit, and that's this guy here. So if I were to place this right underneath me, that's gonna fill in some of these areas and that's gonna make it a little bit more gentle. Should I keep this though? That's the question that I'm trying to answer with all these, because to be honest, I don't have a lot of use cases for this. There are a few cool things about it that you can do. So we'll make some augmentations to this. We're gonna keep the light exactly how it is. We're just gonna lower the skirt a little bit and see what we can do to this image. By lowering the skirt, we make it even more directional and we make it more specific. And we can use the skirt in some kind of cool ways where we can kind of bring things together at one end so that we can tighten things up and we can augment this light a little bit more and get it exactly how we want it. That's where this actually does become pretty helpful. And the thing is, we're also shooting straight on, right? And that's never quite as pleasing when you're looking at this kind of light. So what I would say is, if you're gonna be using this kind of lighting, have something to fill in those shadows a little bit, like this guy here. And the other thing you can think about is positioning your camera to the side a little bit so that you're starting to get some more interesting fill in this side compared to this side. You're getting more fall off, basically just allowing you to get something more interesting. So that's what I would do. We'll open this back up and you can see how hot that gets all of a sudden on the top here, as opposed to if we were to just close it off a little bit and position this lighting so that it's a little bit more centered where we want it. So now if I'm going out or in, I have to be a little bit more aware of that. Take it for what it's worth. These things aren't like super expensive, so it's a fun piece of kit to have, but like I said, I almost never use it. What I do like about it though is that it's really easy to set up and take down. The downside of setting it up is that it does go, directly above, and so you do have to have like a fair amount of height. So like right now I'm literally like sitting on a little Manhattan on the ground here, an apple box, so that I can get low enough because I don't have super high ceilings in here. So it can be a cool look, it can be a vibe. Just be aware that it does come with some complexities of using it. It's pretty straightforward. It's just on this C-stand here, and you can see that I'm booming it out directly over that longest arm. This is where it does get a little heavy, especially if you have some of the bigger, heavier lights. This is a super small light, so it's not a big deal, but you really are gonna wanna think about being smart with sandbags here. That's my dog, Cottonwood. He's the best. He's on set. So this is an old standby for me. This is just a 50-inch umbrella that we're just bouncing light into, and it is just hitting that and bouncing back onto me nice and gentle. It's one of my favorite ways to light for a couple of reasons. One is that it's really easy, it's really fast, and it's just very simple to set up. And secondly, it's very easy to augment. So yeah, it's spilling a lot of light, and you have to think about that with your background too. Like, do we want a lot of light spilling onto our background? For something like this, I don't really care all that much. It doesn't bother me. I don't need the light to be super directional, but I do want to make sure that I am focusing on where the light is hitting me. The nice thing about this too is it's very easy to adjust. So right now we have like a slightly more dramatic look where we have more fill on one side and less fill on the other. But all we really have to do is just bring this umbrella over. So now the umbrella is basically directly behind the camera, and I'm getting really like nice and even lighting on everything, right? That's a good look. It's good for like straightforward stuff, or maybe people are doing beauty and stuff like that. That's a good look. For me, I like it to be a little more dramatic, so we're gonna bring it to the side again, and we're gonna get that. Another alternative for this would be to take that big fat diffusion panel here, and we could throw that up, and then all of a sudden we're gonna fill in this area nice and easily. So there it is with fill, there it is without. But I don't know, for me, I prefer it to be a little bit more dramatic. This is for sure staying in my kit no matter what. It's easy to transport, it's really small and thin. I love the fact that I can get like nice wraparound light. It's great for photography, it's good for video, it's kind of just good for everything. It's also not super expensive, and I know I can replace it if I need to, as opposed to some more expensive custom modifiers or what have you. If you wanted this to be even more gentle, you could use that trick we did with the diffusion panels and my trusty C-stand here. Basically, you would just do the exact same thing. We have one more thing we're gonna look at, and it's actually gonna be very similar to this. We're gonna keep this in the exact same position. The only difference is that we're gonna turn the light around so it's facing directly towards us, and we are going to use a softbox and have it a little more directional, and you'll see what that does, especially to the background. So our last setup here is a nice deep parabolic softbox. This is a 25 inch, yeah. 25-inch one. It's not very big, so that means the light is more directional, but it's also easier to take with me and set up and take down, and I can use it one-handed on the side when I'm shooting, and I can literally just like hold flash up and snap some photos on the side, which is a pretty fun technique. The thing to think about when using like a smaller softbox like this is how powerful doing little movements of it is going to be. So just doing like a small little feathering of this is gonna do a lot, and I'll show you what that looks like. So if I start moving this and feathering it, you can see going over to the side here just how much darker everything gets. We're getting way less light. We can start to move it in so we get just a little bit on the side here and it falls away. But if we want to create something really dramatic, we can start to move it to the other side here, and you'll see that we start to get this sort of like split lighting almost, where we're barely getting any light on this side, super dramatic and intense. However, it's pointed at our background right now, so we're lighting up stuff that we may not want to. Regardless, this side of my face is still gonna be the lightest thing in the frame, which is good, so it means it's gonna keep your attention. But we're gonna keep this over here, basically like this, so we're getting some nice Rembrandt lighting, and that's gonna be our look. Keeping in mind, again, direction is everything. When it comes to light, whether you're using this, you're using the book lighting, you're using everything else, the quality of light is also gonna be so dependent on where that light is actually facing and how you are augmenting that light. So I hope this helps you to see that it's not all just about what light you own, it's about modifiers, it's about being intelligent about where you place them and that sort of thing. And in another video, we're gonna talk about how to motivate light, which is something that we didn't really touch on here very much. I mean, we had the light in the background, and that was about it. And so I think there's a lot you can do to really up the game. Let me know in the comments what types of modifiers you have. What are you using? Are there things that you're like, I never use this, I should get rid of it? What do you think I should hold on to? What should I get rid of? What was your favorite look? What did you like the most? What did you like the least? Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. It would help me out huge if you'd subscribe and do the things we ask you to and blah, blah, blah. Thanks so much, peace.